sure, like a lot of you, I did really hard manual labor when I was young, worked on a farm, was a commercial fisherman for 6 years, was drafted in 1966 into the Army. Took me 10 years to get an associate's degree and another 10 years to get a bachelor's degree. So I took advantage of the GI Bill. I spent 33 years at GTE and Verizon. I started climbing telephone poles in 1969 during the first Boeing boom, 747, and worked up and retired as an executive with that firm. During that time that I was with GTE, I served 7 years on the city council in Everett in the 80s, and then in 2003 was elected mayor of Everett. From my perspective, what Mayor Pete has in his background is so critically important to being President of the United States. And I may offend some people by saying this, but people who are legislators, that skill is not necessarily transferable to being an executive in the country. And there are a lot of great senators and congresspeople and people that are serving in the state, but it is a different skill set. So when I look at his experience as running a city, not really unlike Everett, about 100,000 citizens, his time with McKinsey, working with corporations and helping them be better corporations, and really working with professionals to make sure that the people inside those companies were treated well, and the success of those businesses were important to employees, I think is a skill set that's really important for me, when I'm looking at who am I going to support for President of the United States. I think in terms of what we've all seen in this last 3 years is deeply troubling to me. I'm sure it's deeply troubling to you. And we have an opportunity to elect somebody who really will make us proud, who has the right skill set, who has the right temperament. But it's really going to be important to see how the primaries and the caucuses take place in Iowa and New Hampshire. Think about Barack Obama. I mean, he was really not on the radar screen at all. But those primaries and those caucuses made the difference. And that's what we can have with Mayor Pete. And I believe it's going to happen. And Joe Biden, love the guy. He's got great history. I can tell you at 73, I'm not the same leader I was at 56. And so it's just a skill set that really requires somebody who has the energy and the vision to take this country forward. And I think that's what we would have if Mayor Pete is the nominee and elected President of the United States. It's really going to take all of us, and all of us talking to our relatives and our friends and anyone who will listen on the street corner to talk about Mayor Pete and how important it is to make sure that he's our nominee and elected President of the United States. Any questions that you have, I'd be happy to try to answer, and I don't want to go on and on, but yes, sir.
Mayor, I was wondering if you can talk about, you said you have electability. Obviously, people in both parties, when it comes time to pick a presidential nominee, they always want to pick someone who's going to win. That's right. A given. But this year, more than ever, probably, Democrats are just desperate to get someone who they think is the most likely to win and get Trump out of there.
Right.
So can you talk to whether you think that's the right approach, or is Pete definitely the most electable, or what are your thoughts on that as someone who's run a few elections yourself?
Well, the pundits would say that, and I'm sure a lot of Democrats would say that finding the most electable Democrat is the way to go. And I'm sure there's some conventional wisdom that maybe it's Joe Biden that can bring that kind of support to the election that would take out Trump. I don't think so. I think it's going to be someone who has new ideas, who doesn't have, a past and history and experience is fine, But sometimes, if you look at, in my era, John Kennedy didn't have that kind of experience. Barack Obama didn't have that kind of experience. But he had the vision and the idea about what this country could be. And that's what people are hungry to hear about. I think the experience he has, the executive's experience, the other thing I didn't mention, I'm a veteran. The military provides a discipline to human beings that is tough to go through. I mean, they break you down and they build you back up. But I thought I was pretty hot stuff before I went into the Army. And after that experience, it really grounded me, really for my entire life. So I think we have somebody who doesn't have bone spurs, didn't try to get out of the draft, who served his country. He's got absolutely the right experience base, in my view, to be a great president. And I think people will rally to that.